Welcome to the Is Everybody Having Fun breakdown. John Summit, Gorgon City. And what we're going to be paying attention to is the arrangement here. We're going to try to extract the arrangement secrets that we can use in our own tracks to make it feel much better, build that tension, release that tension, take the listener on an exciting journey, build the highs, maybe not as many lows, but just lots of highs and excitement. And that's what arrangement's all about, is just kind of telling the story over time. Now, the two main characters for me when it comes to breaking down tracks and telling the story through the arrangement is the hooks and the groove. The hooks are things like vocals and sound design. And the groove, for me, I'm using a specific way of using that term here, is just drums and bass. And so those are the four main things. You got the vocals, the sound design, the drums, and the bass. And we're going to just pay attention to how those two higher level characters, the hooks and groove, develop over time to create the exciting moments. So we're going to map it all out and use what we learned to make the best music we can and make sure our tracks go off in the club. Here we go. Cool. So just like normal, we're going to start with the beats. In case you haven't seen one of these, welcome to the channel. And subscribe if you want to watch really, really long tech house breakdowns. Let's keep going. So here we have the beats, and I'm going to get that an 8-bar length right there. Anything unique? Of course, we got that kind of like, but that synth kind of in the background, that's kind of going up and down. It kind of reminds me of that recent Josh Baker track where they kind of had this phaser going on the tops or something like that, and the Prospect track. But so Splash Hat, big thing right now. Splash Hat is just this guy. And that, of course, is just like if you're a live drummer, because the splash hats are coming from like disco, new disco, indie dance, that kind of thing. But that's inspired by, original disco. And when you had a live drummer and the drummer's playing and going tit, 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 tit on a hat, the hat's closed. And then boom, he opens up the hat, hits the hi-hat, and that's what the splash hat is. And then he closes it down. And so you get this tit, 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 shh. And that's a splash hat. And that's what we're hearing all the time these days. And I love it. I think it's cool. So he does have that kind of cool, unique little thing, or they, I should say, have that cool little unique thing in the background there, which I'm just going to do like synth. And for now, I'm going to call it swirling. Did I spell that wrong? Yep. Swirling. Cool. Kind of like a bandpass filter thing. So I'm going to do bandpass up and down. So one thing to note too is I'm just going to say it goes up and down over 8 bars.
Is everybody having fun?
All right. Okay. Yeah. I just remember how much I like John Summit arrangements. Of course, Gorgon City's in the mix too, but like, I feel like this is going to be like a proper John Summit tech house arrangement, which is just super straightforward, but therefore very powerful in how simple it is. So let's go ahead and we'll do vocal. And the reason why I already even say that is because right off the bat, we're getting the intro hook tease. Intro hook tease. So even in an intro, the first thing to think about when it comes to intros, and let's map out the high level kind of structure as well. First thing for intros is remember that intros are not for producers. They're for DJs. All right. We're trying to make the DJ's life easy. So let's call this a map or something like that. And we're not trying to be fancy. We're not trying to be clever or creative in the intro. We're just trying to get a DJ to mix into our track. And we're not trying to put things in his way to make, 80% of DJs say no to playing our track. But even right here, very simple, very easy to mix in. Got this little textural thing. Kind of cool. And then, but one of the other things that you can do in the intro, well, second thing is like something that can serve as an identifier, right? So for example, this swirling synth right here, I was literally about to try to solo that, but this little synth right here, little bandpass synth right there, that's like obviously unique identifier. That's something that is unique to the track. And then the third thing is intro hook tease, where you just give a little splash of a hook before you go into the next section right here, which is the bass drop. All right, so I'm gonna go like this, bass drop. And if you can imagine, the bass drop is where we drop of the bass. All right, drop of the bass. So let's go ahead and put in the bass right here. Cool, and we haven't even heard it, but I know it's coming because we got that 16-bar intro right there. Nice, hit them with that little vocal hook, little tease, and then boom, go right into the bass drop. Just like that.
Is everybody having fun?
All right, cool. Maybe one thing we'll do too is do a little bit of an edit map. An edit for me is just where you do this. Like you put like a little high pass on the drums or you take the low end away. It's just something that you do at the end of 8 bars that takes away the low end a little bit, and that allows you to reset things. So for example, if you were going to put a high pass halfway through the bass drop, let's see if they do. Yeah, they do. So they do, like they remove a little kick right there. See, there's no kick. All right, so that's an edit, because what it does, it allows you to reset for that next 8 bars in this case. A lot of times also it allows you to just kind of move into a new section, right? So here you're removing the low end and then boom, you're moving the low end in an even bigger way. You got full kick and now full bass. But another thing you do in the edit is sneak in a little bit of a vocal, sneak in a little bit of effects, just to pull you in, create that forward momentum and pull into the next section.
Is everybody having fun?
Cool. Let's put like a little delay on this guy right here. Delay. And I'm just going to color this a different color. Cool.
Is everybody having fun?
Cool. And then just like with the indie dance kind of influence in the drum, we're also getting that kind of current modern electro house kind of offbeat bass influence as well. So, and just for fun, let's see if we can map this out real quick. So a little bit of a square. Cool. All right, a little square down there. And so this is just going to be on E. So let's go here. And then there's a little bit of a flourish, you could say. Let's see. So E, where are you? So a little bit higher there. Let's see where he's going. So if we hop over here, and we go to the spectrum analyzer. Going up to C. No way. Really? Probably B. Probably more like B. And then B is right there. All right, cool. And so there you go. One thing I want you to pay attention to is look at how this kind of bass jump right here corresponds to all these splash hats. So you get like a splash hat here just before the clap. So it kind of, what happens is the splash hat's going to open, it opens things up, and then the clap closes it down. And then you get the bass note right there. So all these things are just kind of interacting. Because look at how the bass note hits every, at the end of every 2 bars here. All right, it jumps up. And then at the end of every 2 bars here is when we're getting the splash hat. And so if you listen, you can hear those two interacting. Whoops. right? So there you go.
Is everybody having fun?
So there's some kind of like cool textures going on back here. It's kind of hard to make out exactly what they are, but
Is everybody having fun?
so I'm just gonna, I mean, there's kind of two interesting textures. One is this almost like tonal texture. Texture. And then another one is almost this like glitchy electronic texture. Glitchy, and this is kind of like tonal. We'll see how these play out, and then you're gonna get that vocal stretch as well, so we'll see. I'm not gonna go too deep in the weeds here. Try to keep it simple. In the spirit and in honor of John Summit, we're going to keep it simple because he's just like the king of simplicity and just making it work. My favorite arrangement is probably La Danza. It's probably the one that I cite the most.
Is everybody having fun?
Cool. And then we're going to get that vocal right here.
Everybody having fun?
Now, this is typical right here. All right. So let's get back on point. So intro is for DJs, not producers, keeping it simple with the beats, a little bit of a unique identifier here. And then you have the intro hook tease, and then boom, you go right into the bass drop. So principles off the bat, not too many because it's the intro. So again, I'm not trying to be fancy with it. But here we're in the bass drop. And with the bass drop, like typically high level, you're going to divide it into two sections. You got the bass drop where you just introduce the groove. You just introduce the bass line, the full groove. All right. And then you switch it off. You hand it off to the B section of the bass drop. Now, sometimes it could just carry straight through, right? You don't have to do anything crazy. But a lot of times you might find two things. You could find a little bit of a lift. So a lift for me is a sound that comes in that literally lifts the energy abruptly, right? So like a bigger open hat, a rise cymbal, a shaker, those are classic lifts. The second thing that you might find in the second half of a bass drop in the B section would be like a transition sound that starts to pull you into the break, all right? And in either case, what I'll typically call that little sound is the B lift. So B lift? I don't know. But the reason why this kicked me off, though, is because, or like this whole little slight rabbit hole that I went down, is because you're going to get a vocal right here. And so if we're getting a vocal right here, and we're getting a little tiny edit right here, and I'm just going to put that in there, and I forgot to do the edit over here. It signals to me that something's going to change right here. Right? Something is getting set up. Now, it could be wrong. I could be wrong. But anytime you do an edit, even if it's this small, just removing that kick right there, is preparing the listener for some kind of change. All right? And here with this vocal too, that vocal's just kind of telling me something might happen here. We'll see. Now, if this is a John Summit track, so it's usually very principled. So we'll see. All right, so there you go. So what they're doing is they're kind of lifting, not with the drum element, but with a little bit of a vocal. And they're not giving the full vocal away because you're kind of getting this vocal stretch effect. So we'll go like that. So vocal stretch. So, but we're still kind of getting this effect. I'm not even sure really what to call it, but whatever. So all that stuff is all just like very creative examples of like transitions and really transitions. Maybe you can call them lifts. This is to me more of a lift over and above here because we don't have a vocal back here, but over here now we do with that little stretch vocal and all this texture. It's a little bit of a lift, but I feel it more of a pulling energy. Oh, jeez, more of a pulling energy than a lifting up. And so it's taking me, I feel like it's taking me over here. So I'm going to call these transitions. But
is everybody having fun?
Cool. And there we go. And so, let's see. So we're still getting this synth. We got the bass, we got the beats, but we have these kinds of transition-y. You know what? Maybe we'll just keep it 1. So we'll just call like this tonal and glitch. And then I'm also going to go like transition-y. There we go. Now we just get 1. Cool. And so, you know, it's hard to say exactly what it is, but they're just messing around. They're just messing around with sounds, getting some kind of weird stuff going on.
Is everybody having fun?
So edit right there because we're getting rid of the kick drum, but the bass is still full, as you can see. This is all the bass right there. A huge bass, by the way. It's almost full headroom, as you can see. That's crazy. All right.
Is everybody having fun?
Hey, you know what's cool, though? Check this out. Since there's no kick right there, it makes it a lot easier to see what the bass note is.
Everybody having fun.
So right here, you can see, look at that, huge.
Everybody having.
That's really loud for a bass. When I'm working with producers, I'll try to get them to keep their bass in what I call the translation window, which is kind of like from -6 to -12, just that lower harmonic. Now, obviously, a bass moves around, so that harmonics, that fundamental is going to move around. But as long as it kind of lives inside -6 to -12, you're in a good spot, at least in terms of translating to the club. This is very loud for a bass, you know, and cool. I mean, the louder is better. I believe it. And so does science. There you go. QED.
Everybody having fun. Everybody.
And here we go. Look at that, just jumping up. But that is a C. Look at that. So this isn't. There we go. That's why I'm all messed up. It's like, why would you go to the -6? I'm messed up because it's not an E. This is not an E. This is an F. That makes a million times more sense. All right, cool. So we're in F minor there. So I didn't get the note that I thought I was going to get, but I did get everything to finally make sense. Because, man, jumping up to the -6, that could be cool. It's a cool tonal, melancholic sound because the -6 really gives a melancholic vibe, but it wouldn't quite feel right here. The 5th makes perfect sense. All right, cool. Keep going.
Is everybody having fun?
And we got some cool little lasers. So lasers. These little lasers here are obviously little cool sounds, but what they're doing is they're just kind of helping us start to open things up as we get into the break. All right, so let's get into the break now. So we're getting into break 1. And again, we're probably going to be pretty principled here, which is, I love it because, you know, we're going to see a really solid arrangement here. Lots to learn in terms of just getting things right. So this is going to be a break. And we might chop this up into 2 parts because usually you have a break and then a build. So let's go. Let's see. So first thing about a break is give them a break, right? That's why we call it a break. Break down, right? We're breaking things down. So like, for example, the kick and the high bass are going away in the sense that there's like a high pass there. But I also like to think like, hey, we're giving the listeners a break. Make me think of Kit Kats. Give me a break. There we go. Give them a break. Second thing in a break is hit them with the main thing, right? Give them the main thing. The main thing is going to be the vocal. Another one would be keep the groove alive. When you're this early in the track, DJ's just kind of mixing in. And like they just had all that excitement going on and kind of settling the energy, kind of mixing into a new track. You don't want to just plummet the energy by going into this crazy dramatic breakdown. You could do that over here, but early on in the track, you want to keep the groove alive. And that makes it practically very easy because all you have to really do, at least as a starting point, is you could take your drop, put it over here, drop it over here, and just high pass it. And see how it feels. Take things out if you want to, but at least very simple. So give them a break, hit them with the main thing, keep the groove alive, create a sense of atmosphere. So let's see what's going on here. Hear all that atmosphere created by the reverbs and stuff? And there's a little bit of a lower riser coming in there. But we've got the main vocal low passing up. So let's get that in there because that's hit them with the main thing, right? So main vox, LP up. All right, so this is kind of like the chorus vocal, but it's kind of like a rap verse, so I'm just going to call it a verse. Verse, Vox, LP for low pass up. So these little lasers delay out. So delay.
Everybody having fun. Everybody having fun.
All right, so let's put a high pass on this guy. So I don't know why I wrote bass over there, but that's okay. So do HP, and then over here we'll do HP for high pass. So we're still getting this kind of like bandpass synth up and down.
Everybody having fun. Is everybody having fun?
Okay, we're getting an accent effect. So we'll do the kind of 3 typical effects tracks here, which are going to be effects up, effects down, and then effects accents. Because those are really the 3 kind of effects you could do, right? Effects up, that builds tension. Effects down settles the energy. Think of like, right? Feels like it's settling the energy. Effects accent, accents a moment. Here we're accenting a moment with a crash. So, right?
Everybody having fun.
Yeah, bright crash up there. A little bit of a string in the background you can hear. So let's put a string. And that helps create a sense of atmosphere and kind of high level tension. So. So this guy, this bandpass synth is kind of delaying to create chaos, right? So I'm going to color this just slightly different. That's not slightly different. That's completely different, but that's okay. You can hear the bass cut off opening. So cut off opening just to get more intensity. All right, now right here is kind of the handoff to the build. Like this whole thing is kind of a build because you've got that low pass slowly opening. You've got the bass slowly opening. There's definitely a riser coming in that we can feel kind of around here, just creeping in. So creeping up. So let's see, riser. And but right here, we're going to get the handoff to the more of the building style of energy. All right, now the verse is pretty much full, verse full with, we'll do Pong delay because you can hear it's kind of bouncing left and right. Now there's other vocal effects for sure, right? There's a reverb on there. There might be a delay down the middle. You know, there's different effects going on, but the one that's standing out to me that's doing a lot of work other than just creating a kind of like sense of atmosphere is the ping pong delay. The ping pong delay on the vocal is creating a sense of chaos and tension, which is exactly what we want to do right here. So. All right, so definitely a snare roll in there. Let's get these vocals up here. So then we have a snare roll. Cool, and I'm just going to color the beats red. And okay. And so that's just 16ths, right? So nothing crazy here. Okay, you can definitely hear loud riser. Loud riser. Cool, and all that gets cut right there at the pipo or the pattern interrupt payoff. We'll break that down, but let's see.
Where's the where's the who's the why's the what's the it? Where's the where's the who's the why's the what's the it? Where's the where's the who's the why's the what's the it? So we don't care about the where's the where's the.
Nice, nice. Okay, cool. And cool.
Where's the where's the who's the why's the what's the it?
Interesting. Okay, cool. I got something to say right here, which is fun. So it's not that crazy. It's probably cooler to me than it is to you, but you never know. You never know. All right. So here again, what I want to do is just break down the principles because it's so simple, right? So here we kind of have a break-ish section, a little bit of a building energy, just because we're getting this opening. So let's actually talk about tension. So tension really is going to come from rep, roll, rise, grow. Okay, rep, roll, rise, grow. And so rep is a hook repetition. Roll is roll is snare roll, crash roll, kick roll, tom roll. If you go listen to London's on Fire, they've got a freaking tom roll in there, which is cool, but mostly snare roll. And then kick roll and crash roll. Rep, roll, rise, so risers. Anything that goes up, right? So a white noise riser, obviously. A tonal riser, obviously. But even if, for example, you have the cutoff opening on the bass, that's a riser because it's going up. It's creating that feeling of going up. Also, on a snare roll, right? A snare roll can come in with those 16ths, but if you're opening up the cutoff on the snare roll to let the top end in, that is a riser. Okay, it's a combination of a roll and a riser. So rep, roll, rise, and then grow is where you grow the space with reverb usually. Or if you want to be real simple, just endless smile. Just go get endless smile, grow the space with endless smile. And so coming back over here into the break, we're already getting hints of building energy, which is basically rising in a way because we have the vocal opening up with a low pass filter here. Now we also have the bass opening as well. That's a riser. Now this little swirling synth thing that has been playing throughout, in a way it's a riser, in a way it's not. It's a riser because it's going up, but it's also getting more intense with the delay. So with that increasing delay, with the chaos of the delay, that's kind of more of growing the space than it is riser. But it is going up, it goes back down, so it's not really a riser, but you could feel the building energy of it through this section, and then it starts to go down. All right, cool. But the point is, a little bit of a break section, giving them a break, and creating a sense of atmosphere, keeping the groove alive, presenting them with the main thing, even though it's low pass, but then we're also getting a little bit of a building energy. And then we hand it off to the real build, and that's going to be signified by, boom, that snare roll coming in right there. And then that snare roll comes in, and we're just going to get more and more chaotic from there. So rep, roll, rise, grow. So let's see what it is. Are they repping? Now, the vocal itself is a rep. So not really a proper rep in the sense that I'm thinking. So, for example, if you was just going to rep like where's the like something like that, that would be like a proper rep. But even the vocal itself, since it's so repetitive in its rhythm, kind of builds tension in and of itself. All right, so that's rep. Roll would be obviously the snare roll. There's no kind of crash roll or any other kind of roll. Rep, roll, rise, there's definitely risers in there, plus the bass is opening and some other things are happening. Rep, roll, rise, and grow, yeah. And then we're getting some nice ping pong delay on the vocal. Things are moving up and out into a space, and so all of those contribute to the feeling of building tension. All right? And then all of that kind of comes together right here and just stops. Okay, so right here when it stops, I call this a pipo. A pipo is a pattern interrupt payoff, P-I-P-O, pattern interrupt payoff. Because what you're doing is you're building tension, building tension, building tension. That's the pattern. And then boom, it stops. So the pattern is interrupted. It just stops abruptly. And in that moment, everyone's paying attention. We can't help it. It just hijacks the brain when those moments happen, which is why we'll hear them forever. And then, so once you interrupt the pattern and you have everyone's attention, then what you do is you hit them with the payoff. So pattern interrupt payoff. And so that's what's going on here. And this is exactly right. So we're getting the pattern interrupt.
So we don't care about the.
Now, what's really cool about this is that the payoff does two things. It's not just a payoff. You can imagine just a payoff in quotes, which would be like, yo, bitch, let's go. And then you hit him with the drop, right? Like that would be a payoff. But the cool thing about this payoff is, yes, you're hitting him with a vocal right there, a vocal payoff, but it's also a pickup melody. And a pickup melody is a melody that begins before the beat or the bar and brings you in. And so immediately this vocal gives you something to shout in this moment, but it also pulls you in because it's a pickup, right? It starts before the beat. So check it out. Listen to how this vocal feels like it just pulls you forward in the track. So
we don't care about the wins, the where's, the who's, the why's, the what's, the if.
Boom, right? Super cool. Very, very powerful. Very simple, but very powerful when you do that. So be on the lookout for vocals that have a little bit of a pickup melody, because you can use them like this. And when you find vocals in tracks that have pickup melodies, a lot of the times, the majority of the time, you're going to find them being used as the pypo. Okay, one thing that I was kind of laughing at earlier is when you break the pattern or something that can be helpful is telling the listener when it's going to stop in a way. And so what I'll call this sometimes is like peaking it out or taking them to the top. And a lot of times all that is just you have one last sound that just comes in here and just almost feels like it cuts it off for you. But in this case, they're just building momentum, and then boom, it just stops. There's nothing really signals to the listener that things are stopping right there. So it's cool, but it's also a little bit disorienting, which is what makes it cool, you know? And so listen to that. There's nothing that really signals things are going to stop at 64. So it just, boom, it just stops.
So we don't care about.
Right? Whereas if I was going to go get like, let me see if I can get something really quick. Where's effects? Oh, here we go. Oh, come on. It's indexing. Jeez. That's the problem with externals. Okay, cool. So for example, if I was going to just throw this guy in here, and let me just reverse it really quick so it's not, and then unwarp it. And then I'm just going to cut off the little tail there so I can re-reverse it and so that it's nicely in time. A little tip there for you. This would be an example of a taking it to the top. So I'm going to bump this up like 6 dB. It might be a little bit loud, but maybe we'll even go like that to make it shorter, but watch this.
So we don't care.
You see how that takes you to the top? Now it's a little bit too loud, of course. I wanted you to hear it. But if I take that away and maybe make it a little bit subtle, you'll still feel it. See how it primes you for that stopping? Now, that's a good principle. You can always do that. But another thing is, in this case, they're not doing that, which is totally fine and cool. And I like it. See, so I like when, you could think of this stuff, a lot that I talk about is, not all of it, but some of these things, like especially with the tension building elements, rep, roll, rise, grow, pypo, peak out, all these concepts, they're all there to kind of help build tension. And you could think of them as like a menu, right? They're all things that are available for you to do, but you don't have to order everything. If you order everything on that tension building menu, you're going to get a shitload of tension. Okay. But you don't have to do everything. And so we can see kind of here what they're not doing, right? They're not doing a kick roll. They're not doing like crazy risers, although there is a pretty big riser right here. But like if you want to find someone who does nuts builds, who throws the kitchen sink at them, then check out Chris Lake's tracks because he just creates insane tension. All right. But I just wanted to introduce you obviously to the concepts, but also this idea of peaking out or taking them to the top, because that's not present here, and I just wanted to show you that. So moving out into the drop, we're using that pickup melody, the payoff melody, to pull us into the drop here. So let's go ahead and continue.
So we don't care about the wins, the where's, the who's, the why's, the what's, the if, the boss, the kiss, the touch, the last, the lost, the drugs, the you, the me, the us, the soft, the smooth, the rough, the smooth, the us, the pop, the.
So cool. We'll do like hook, drop one. There we go.
The where's, the who's, the why's, the what's, the if, the boss, the kiss, the touch, the last, the lost, the drugs, the you, the me, the us, the soft, the smooth, the rough, the smooth, the us, the pop, the what, the fuck, and run, the rum.
Okay, any difference in the drums? Let's see.
The drugs, the you, the me, the us.
So one thing that I'm hearing right here immediately is there's a wider bass layer here than there was anywhere over there. But my question is, did they introduce that wider bass layer through the break at all? So let me play the wider bass layer. Now you can hear this on the sides of the mix, which is perfect because the vocal's down the middle. And so if you're going to have that vocal down the middle, then and then the bass also down the middle, especially with that kind of more open mid-range, then they're going to clash, right? The top of the bass and the bottom of the vocal are going to clash. Now, what you could do though to still have mid-range in the bass and a full vocal, even though there's going to be frequency overlap, without question there's frequency overlap. But what you could do is you can separate them in stereo. So you're not getting so much frequency separation between these two, at least in where they overlap, but you are getting stereo separation. So the vocal's down the middle and the bass is wide. All right, and so listen to that. Now you might hear some wide vocal effects in there, and sure, but that's not what I'm talking about. The main part of the vocal, the meat of the vocal, the dry signal of the vocal is down the middle, all right? And then the bass is wide. It's not like 100% wide. For example, if I was going to go into Serum and get two voices of unison, that would just pop it out super wide, right? But in this case, it's a little bit, for lack of a better way of describing it, blurry wide, right? It's not left, right, super wide. It's just kind of swirling around on the sides, but it's out of the way of the vocal. And that's what's important there. All right, so where did that come in? You can start to come in there, right? You can start to hear it. You can start to hear that top of the bass come in right there. But listen right here. Listen to how that bass is kind of down the middle right here. That crunchy part of the bass is down the middle. But when does it turn wide? Does it turn wide through here, or does it just start wide here? So let's see. Still down the middle. Still down the middle. All right, they're just keeping it down the middle. And then boom, when you get into the drop, where it really matters that you get the separation and the breaks and the builds, you could, kind of do whatever you want. But in the drops, it's very important that we're going to get this separation. And we do. And so it could be achieved by just automation, but it's probably just another channel or something. It sounds kind of like hyperdimension. Notice how it's kind of wide around here, but then it starts to get center again when the bass comes back into prominence. Interesting stereo work here. That's all I'm pointing out here. Is everybody having fun? The plans, the where, the who's, the why's, the what's, the if, the but. Yeah, you hear that? It's wide around here. This is very cool. Very cool. All right. So let's get back to the point. So here we have the vocal. We don't care about the when's, the where's, the who's, the why's, the what's, the if, the bus, the kiss, the touch, the last, the last, the drugs, the you, the me, the us, the stuff, the smooth, the rough, the smooth, the us, the puff, the what, the fuck, and run, the rum, bad too much. Anything in the drums though, let me just see. The bus, the kiss, the touch. It's everybody having the drugs, the you, the me, the us, the stuff. It's the drugs, the you, the me, the us. The drugs, the you, the me. Listen to the difference in the snare for right here, watch. And even over here maybe, let's see. Or right here, let's see. And then here. Way bigger, right? I think they added kind of an extra noise kind of sample or something on top of it that's wider. Oh man, saying wide so many times in this video.
The boss, kiss the toss, the last.
But you can definitely hear that snare sample's been changed or elevated.
The boss, kiss the toss, the last. The drugs are you, the meat, the ass, the soft, the smooth and rough, the new to us, the pot, the what the fuck, and run the rum, bad too much, and you lost, you won, fun, the party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
Okay, so up effect here, we got some more lasers. Maybe we could just put them in the lasers channel. So
the what the fuck, and run the rum, bad too much, and you lost, you won, fun, the party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
So a little bit of an edit right there. Cool.
Everybody having fun. The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun.
So here now what we're getting is basically a title rep. So title, I shouldn't say title rep, let's say like title chops, kind of like little segments of the title. Or maybe I'll just say title line.
The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun.
But man, to break this down even more though, like yeah, it's title line, but let me show you what else is going on here. So we'll do like,
The party's just begun.
so let's get rid of this. Watch this.
The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
So
The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
So I'm trying to think of how to best group this. So we can call this as like title, and then we'll go call. All right, and this is going to be title, and this is going to be response. Okay, and then let's do this. Let's do this. Call, partial title, and then this is going to be response, full title. Partial title line. Because the whole line is, the party's just begun, is everybody having fun. And so this is going to be the full, oh my gosh, one more change, because I feel title might be a little bit confusing. But the key is like, you're setting up the title line. You're setting up the title line playing here. And the title line, I mean the title of the song, all right? And so, but I feel like this will be a little bit cleaner for if you're looking at this MIDI map. But the point is call response. You're getting a call, and that call picks up again here, but it pays off with the response. And the payoff of the call response here is the title line. You know, like that's really important. So that gets repeated. But check this out too. So another thing is that this little swirling synth went away and now it's coming back. But it's going away over here underneath the verse. Why? Because the vocal's there. But as soon as we're going to get a vocal that's not kind of the star of the show anymore, now we can start to bring other elements back. So that's why this comes back in here. A little bit of a lift. All right. And so let's just listen to some of the other sounds here. But let's see.
The what the fuck, and run the rum, bad too much, and you lost, you won, fun, the party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Okay, cool. So we're getting a nice little accent effect there. A little bit of a noise blast. And a little bit of a laser. So I'm going to do like white noise. And I guess since we have a little laser thing, do like a down laser. Down.
The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
So there's this kind of sound in the background there. I have no idea what to make out, like what it is, but I'm going to call it like vox because it's kind of a voxing, but it sounds like a dog barking. Dog bark. All right, I'll show you where it is. Watch.
The party's just begun.
Right there. What? It sounds like a little dog barking. I'm calling it a vox because I think it might be like the original sound might be a vocal, but you never know. Who knows? Who freaking knows? Who knows such things? Okay.
The party's just begun.
Kind of fades out right here. So let's see, like fade out.
The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
And then it comes in again right here.
The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
Okay, now there's some other sounds in here. Let's see.
Party's just begun. Party's just begun.
So a little bit of like a wub thing. So let's get like a wub. And just notice how all these are they're like little puzzle pieces that all fit together, right? So let's go ahead and put that there, I believe.
Party's just begun.
So kind of like right there, actually. Cool.
Party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun.
Okay, and then the bass opens. So, oh, you know what? The bass opens over here too.
The what the fuck, I'm run the wrong, I'm bad too much, I'm done, you lost, you want fun, the party's just begun.
So bass opens, and then a bass opens over here as well. So,
The party's just begun. Is every
so I'm gonna put like bass really opens. There we go. Just so you know.
The party's just begun. Is every
And then we have a much bigger edit here. Cool.
party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
And then we have this like this other kind of like Vox shouty thing. All right, it's like I have no idea what it is.
Everybody having fun? Is everybody having fun?
Yeah, whatever that is.
Everybody having fun? The party's just begun. Everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Okay, cool. So let's stay in this first half right here, and we'll do we'll call this hook drop 1. I'm going to call this HD1A. So hook drop 1A section, and we'll pop this guy over to the right and color it a different color here, and this will be HD1B section. All right, cool. Let's talk about this. So coming into the HD1A, this is going to be defined, or the whole A section is going to be defined by this main vocal. So in the first 8 bars, it's just playing the whole time, right? It's the verse. It's what, everyone's kind of waiting for. They're waiting for that verse to be played over the drop. And if you think about it, that's one way to think about the break. Now, before we were talking about how in the break, what you want to do is you want to hit them with the main thing. Why? Because you're basically previewing what's to come over the drop. A lot of times you could just think of the break as you're getting rid of the groove, right? So you're high passing the groove, or maybe you're taking the kick away, the bass away, whatever. You're removing the groove so people aren't dancing as much. But if they're not dancing, what are they doing, right? If they're not doing something, they're going to be bored out of their mind, right? So that's the perfect opportunity to hit them with like the main thing, to give them the hook right there, all right? And then over here, but you can think of the break as previewing what's to come, is like setting up the thing that they're going to listen to, introducing the thing that comes next, which is going to be the hook over the groove. And so here, they're just paying that off immediately, right? Low pass up, low pass up, low pass up, low pass up on the vocal. Build tension, build tension, build tension. Why? To get that full verse over the groove, period. End of story. It's that simple. Then that plays. Now, if they were going to play that twice, probably too much. We can even test it. We can take this, duplicate it, see how that sounds to us. Let's just see. And one thing I want you to pay attention to here is we're going to listen to this, and imagine yourself producing. Like, learn to kind of trust your instincts a little bit. If you think something's too much, then maybe it is. Try something else. Maybe just strip it back to a couple lines of the vocal like they're doing here and interacting with something else. But I want to play this for you so you can kind of hear like, yeah, that does kind of feel like too much. Or maybe it doesn't. It probably does. Well, let's just play it and find out.
The where's the who's the why's the what's the if the boss the kiss the touch the last the last the drugs the you the me the us the stuff the smooth and rough is new to us the pop the what the fuck I'm run the wrong I'm bad too much I'm done you lost you want fun the party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The planes the where's the who's the why's the what's the if the boss the kiss the touch the last the last the drugs the you the me the us the stuff the.
See, now, of course, that's not set up exactly right because you have that payoff line and we need the kind of the pickup to come to bring everything back in, but you can feel that it's a little bit too much. And so again, sometimes trust your gut on that, for sure. So coming back, let's see. So let's break down the next 8 bars. So again, this whole drop, though, is still characterized by that main vocal. But here it's just going to be a little bit sparse. And so here is just, what's the line? The party's just begun, right? The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everyone having fun? So simple, extremely simple call response on that. And then it's just kind of like filled in with some gaps. Like imagine, try not to listen to too many of the peripheral sounds and just listen to how this sound is almost just thrown in. Now, as a producer, what you're doing is you're playing with things and different ideas to kind of fill the gaps, but it's just a sound that fills the gaps, you know? So like try to ignore this, and just listen to the call. This sound come in, the response, the call, this sound comes in, and then the response. Now, there's a lot of other things going on, but just listen to that simple kind of structure.
The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
See, it's very simple. Like, so what is the sophistication behind it? Well, it would be this sound kind of evolving. That's cool. That adds this level of kind of complexity to it and interest in, well, evolution. Same with the bass opening up like crazy, right? This bass opening up right here like crazy is setting us up for the B section. It's a transition for the B section. Same with this big edit right here. Remember, before I was talking about edits prepare the listener for a change. And one of the biggest moments of change in a track is obviously, the biggest moment of change in the track is when you go from the break into the drop, especially when you go from the main break into the main drop. That's the biggest moment of change. That's the money moment. That's what the whole track is about. But when we kind of go inward, like, so this is the biggest moment. This would be like the second biggest moment. But after that, another huge moment is simply when you switch to the B section, when you hand off from the A section to the B section, because it's a big moment of change, right? Because these are fundamentally moments of big change. Break to the drop, categorical change. Break to the drop, categorical change. A section to B section, big change, because you're switching off to different hooks. And so this big edit right here and this crazy tension from the bass sets you up for that next section, for the B section. All right, so let's see what else. But the core of it is probably these guys, right? So this is the hook pattern, in other words, for this section. That's what I'm trying to, that's the word I'm looking for, the phrase I'm looking for. The hook pattern. You've got the call, and then you have this little wub, and then that sets up the little dog barks, and then you get the response. And just repeat it, right? It's just repeated. Call, wub, little dog barks, and this. And then the stuff around it, though, is what makes it feel like it's moving and sophisticated and complex and interesting, because this is moving around, going up and down. Nothing really new compared to what you heard before, all right? But then you have the bass line opening up as well as the transition and setting us up for the B section, all right? Again, like all this stuff is just principles, just very well done, right? Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary, but that doesn't make it not unique, right? The things I'm talking about are kind of the things that help structure the listener's experience to literally make them feel things and create anticipation and resolution, tension, resolution, or release. And but it's just done in a unique way. That's what makes it creative. All right, cool. And so let's keep going.
Party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
All right. So we're getting some white noise here on the accent.
Party's just begun.
All right, so the party's just begun right there, right? But we're not getting the response. Now we're getting a different hook. That's why I'm calling this a B section. It's because this kind of stretchy vocal is now going to be the thing, I think, of the B section. We'll see. But we can start to label it up here on what's going on, what defines the A section and the B section. But thinking at that high level really helps you simplify things. All right? And so we've got some lasers down, as you can hear. Lots of lasers in this track. We love lasers. Okay, so let's go like this. So down. Cool.
It's just begun.
All right. You hear the ride lift, so let's throw that in. So this is a ride coming in to make the B section feel taller and more energetic than what came before. So if we play right here,
Drugs are you to me.
no ride. If we play right here,
It's just begun.
no ride. Play right here,
It's just begun.
no ride,
It's just begun.
no ride. Ride. Okay, cool. So there we got a ride right there. That's a lift in the drums. We could listen to see if there's any other changes than drums, but let's get the obvious things. So we're going to focus on the vocal. We've got the beat, we've got the bass, we've got the ride. What about the hooks?
It's just begun.
So we got the party just begun.
It's just begun.
Okay, we've got the little wubs. Let's carry those guys over. All right.
It's just begun.
And that triggers, you can say, the stretch vocal. And so let's just put the stretch vocal right here. Now I'm curious, look at where this stretch vocal is right here. All right. Is that where it was in the B section of the bass drop? Do you remember? So this is 1 bar in. Did it start 1 bar in? What if you were going to make a guess, what would you guess? Does the stretch vocal start 1 bar in the bass drop? Let's see. Let's come over here. Here it is. Is that 1 bar in? You bet it is. Right? Of course. Of course, right? We're not trying to create chaos for the sake of creating chaos, right? We're not trying to create a disorganized experience for the listener for the sake of creating a disorganized experience of just being weird, right? That's not what it's about. That's not, in my opinion, where the creativity lies. Creativity lies in executing the principles in a unique and creative way. All right. And that's exactly what we're seeing here, because this creates the experience. This is what allows us to continue to be interested. It's a combination of presenting the same kind of patterns, hitting the patterns, the principles, but then doing it in a unique way. So it's like, oh, that's new and different. But the underlying structure and the principles are not new and different.
It's just begun.
All right, so exactly no vocal right there. Okay, so this is taken over. So that's the new hook.
It's just begun.
Okay, a little bit of more lasers here. Maybe I could take these guys away and let's go like this. So.
It's just begun.
Okay, and then there's some definite other little kind of I'm just going to call these bass shots or something.
It's just begun.
Stabs. I guess I don't have to. I can let's call these synth stabs, because they're just more stabs. Let's bring them down here. Okay, cool. So there we go. Where are those happening?
It's just begun. It's just begun.
So right here on the offbeat. So in the last breakdown I did, which was on London's on Fire, that was one of the best examples of something I call punks, or just moments. Maybe you can even think of micro moments, but these little things. But that's a great example of punks. I'm talking about London's on Fire. It's a great example of punks, triggers, chokes, all these little detailed moment things. But this is a good example too. It's a clean example. You could think of this synth coming in right here as a choke for the vocal. It stops the vocal. Now, the vocal's already stopped like that in the past, so we're expecting it to, but this almost accents the end of it. It's like a terminus. Isn't that something like that from, anyway, isn't it? Was it Walking Dead? Anyway, here we go.
It's just begun.
Party just begun, right? And then you get the synth.
It's just begun.
So this thing almost puts a period on that vocal.
It's just begun. Everybody having fun. The party's just begun.
Now, this little shouty thing here, really quick, because I just got distracted. You can hear that delaying out over into the next section.
Everybody having fun. The party's just begun. Everybody having fun.
Yeah. And then this delays out. So I'm going to put delays down here. Because you can hear that little texture bouncing around as we're trying to listen into the gaps and find all these sounds. Hear that right here? That meow, meow, meow. You can hear it bouncing left and right. That's the delay from over here. Wub, and then this. Now you could think of this wub here as triggering the Vox stretch. So there's this extremely intentional, not just sequencing of the sound. So one thing that we'll talk about, and that's really important, is to think about how, for example, it makes sense. We're going to have a sound here, and then maybe we have a sound here, and then a sound here, and then a sound here. And so there's all these sounds that have these space. That's cool. That's a really helpful concept for, up-and-coming producers, so things aren't just stepping on each other. But the next level of that is thinking about how you can create interactions between the different sounds. And some interaction like a choke and a trigger is a way of interacting. It's almost like as a causal relationship between the sounds. So this causes, this sound right here, the synth stab, causes the end of this vocal. All right, so there's some intention behind the sequencing. And then this little wub right here, it feels like it's triggering or causing the vocal stretch sound. So listen to this. Right? So yes, they're sequenced in a clean way, sure. Next level of that, again, is thinking about now how they're interacting, right? We can't help but think in almost like causal ways. And so we're literally looking at it right here, or hearing it, I guess. Okay, so moving on. So from the stretch vocal, what happens next? Lots of delay on that. Delay. Okay, cool. So we're not getting that again, all right? So almost starting to feel like we're settling the energy, even though that bass is opening. So opening. The lack of presence in the hooks, because this is stacked right here with hooks, because it's just a star hook. It just goes on forever. This is a little bit more sparse, but we're still getting hit constantly with hooks. Here, we're not getting hit as much with hooks over the head, right? We're getting hit with a hook here, but then it's starting to delay down. And so I'm feeling that we are starting to move towards a lower state of energy, right? Because we're just not getting bombarded with these hooks. Our excitement isn't just constantly taken from one sound to a next. We're starting to settle the mind in a way, so...
Is everybody having fun? It's just begun.
Okay, so this sound's playing every, what was that, 2 bars? Oh, wait a minute. Is it playing every bar?
It's just begun.
Oh, weird. Okay, cool. So it's not playing here underneath the vocal. But here's my question. So if you look at these 4 bars right here, it's playing on 3 of them, but it's not playing right here. The vocal's right there. So that could be an explanation for why it's not playing. Just don't get in the way, right? But the vocal's not playing here. So are we going to get one of these stab sounds? Let's find out.
It's just begun.
Interesting. We don't get one, so they're keeping the structure. That's cool. But I bet we're going to get one over here.
Everybody having fun.
Yeah, look at that. Cool. All right. Look at that, though. Pattern. Repeating the pattern. Okay, no vocal there. Getting a little bit of some lasers again. That wub again.
Is everybody having fun?
Getting this guy, and then we're getting, is everybody having fun?
Is everybody having fun? The party's just...
Okay.
Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Okay, so here it starts to close back down again, but let's get the...
Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. Having fun. The party...
So just a small little edit, but look at this. Is that the same size edit as what came before? Okay, so it's a little bit smaller. It is similar to over here though. Okay, but this one's a little bit bigger here in the A section.
Everybody having fun. The party's just begun.
Okay. Something interesting, something to point out, and I don't make a too big note of this, is that switching from here to here is a little bit more of a bigger deal. There's a little bit more of a change in the presentation of the hook. So a little bit of a bigger edit might be in order. But here, it's pretty small because here, this is kind of a little bit more of a flatter area. We're not making big changes through this. We're not making big changes through this. And so an edit from here to there just resets things, keeps it going. But we don't need to do anything big and crazy. All right, so let's see.
Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Cool, so same kind of thing. Let's just bring this over here like that. And then the ride, possibly, we got to see if it's there. We'll just bring everything over. So like this, cool. And then, let's see.
Everybody having fun. The party's just begun.
Okay, so crash right here.
Party's just begun.
Still got the ride, so we got the beat, we got the bass, we got the ride.
Party's just begun. Party's just begun. Party's just begun. Party's just begun.
So we're getting this, and we're getting this. We're getting the call vocal, the little synth stab, the wub, the stretch vocal. But listen to the bass opening way early. So I'm going to write this like bass opens much earlier. And then here at the edit though, like there's a little thing right here. I'm going to see like bass closes. I don't need to write bass closes. Let's just go to closes.
The party's just begun.
You can hear this sound kind of comes back. It wasn't really there before. It's not here. It's just being used as kind of a lift here in the drops on the second 8 bars of the A and the B. So here in the A section, it's not playing in the first 8 bars, but it is playing in the second 8 bars. And I'm talking about this sound. Right? But here in the B section, I don't hear it playing in the first 8. No, it's not. But here, okay, one thing I am hearing though is these little dog barks. So check this out. So are they playing here? Let's see. So they're not playing here. You would be able to hear. So listen to them right here. What? But here you would hear them. They're not playing there. They're not also playing here. But if I play right here, for example, you hear the barks like wah, wah. All right, so that's cool. Let's bring these guys over. So this is something that I call a structural lift. Like right here, like these guys, this dog barks, and then also the synth swirling. And structural lift sounds like such a, I don't know, fancy word for this, but really it just means like you have your A section and you have your B section. And in the A section, the lift structure is that in the second 8 bars, you've got this little dog barking thing and you've got the swirly synth. That lift structure is then also used in the B section. And so that's why I'm calling it a structural lift. Because, you know, if you have a structural lift in the drop, that for me, that would mean like the A section lift structure and the B section lift structure are going to be similar in some way. There's going to be something there that's going to be similar. And so we're seeing that right here. Now, I still think there's some more sounds in here. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Yeah, I knew I was missing something. Okay. So let's do like a melodic fill. Bow, wow, wow. So, right there. I don't know. That is E and B without question. So, I'm just going to drive myself crazy with this. And I don't want to look it up. So,
is everybody having fun? Is everybody having fun? Is everybody having fun? Is everybody having fun?
Is this B? If this is B, the argument is over. So it is B. Because in a square wave, you have harmonics on the odd. You have the odd harmonics. So this would be the first harmonic. You don't have the second harmonic, but you have the third harmonic. And so the third harmonic is going to be a fifth above the fundamental, the first harmonic. So here we have an E. We don't have a second harmonic, which would have been an E if this was a saw wave. But then here we have a B, which is the third harmonic. And so that definitively makes this E minor. So what we're going to do is going to bring this back down to E minor. There we go. And that means that the going up there is a B. It's a B. All right, cool. So
it's just begun. It's just begun.
Okay, let's see what else.
Is everybody having fun? The party's just
Then it plays right here too. Wow, wow, wow.
The party's just begun.
A little bit of an acidy kind of thing here as the bass really opens up there. So high res, in other words, high resonance.
And
what you could do is literally just automate the resonance on that and to turn it into something acidy. You know, that's all that's happening there. They're just cranking up the resonance on that, which is really cool, actually. I like that idea of, like, you know, you can have like your standard kind of bass that's just like a saw wave, got distortion and noise and more distortion, and it's opening up. But then if you just start to crank that resonance a little bit, it takes it to another level. Ooh, that's really cool. I like that a lot.
Is everybody having fun?
All right, and then this starts to kind of close down.
Is everybody having fun?
Okay, so that's still there. All the little hits are still there.
Is everybody having fun?
Okay, let's just watch out for the... Let's see.
Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So now we're getting into the main break and build here. So let's create... Man, look at this. 32 bars, like, flawless. Is this 5.5? Damn. Yep. Perfect. Always. Okay, so here we have MBB. We'll just call it main break and build for now. That will definitely change. We'll just kind of break that down a little bit more. But yeah, just looking back, like A section, B section. What defined the A section was the main vocal. What defined the B section was the stretched vocals. Right? That's kind of like the high level difference between them. And that's enough. That's enough to define an A section and B section. Everything else is just kind of like window dressing for those elements there. All right, so getting into here now.
Everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
So, yeah, so obviously we're going to get these like pad wide. Oh, wow.
Everybody having fun? The party's just begun. Just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. Party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. Party's just begun.
So I think they're going E minor to F sharp major. No, F sharp minor there.
Party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Cool. All right, let's see. Let's see here. Let's go get Keyscape real quick. Where are you, Keyscape? So and then cool, so we're gonna go E, turn off scale here.
Party's just begun.
So E, B, or E, G, B. Let's see.
Party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
Yep, those are the chords. All right, cool. So very simple chords, right? Just E minor up to F sharp minor. That's it. Very simple. Very cool.
Party's just begun.
And I'm going to just freeze this just in case someone doesn't have Keyscape.
Party's just begun.
And just in case something doesn't work, I'm going to also just move this down here like that. So, right. So,
Begun. Party's just begun.
So, of course, we've got some more lasers. So many lasers in this track. Pew, pew, pew.
Party's just begun.
Okay, we've got, in the beats, we've just got the tops.
Party's just begun.
So, I'm going to color that orange just because that's drums.
Party's just begun.
You hear a low sub in there.
Party's just begun. Party's just begun.
So right there. So let's put that in. So we'll just go sub, which is, probably shouldn't have to say it, but it's definitely a different sound than the original bass. You would not use the same sound for that, just in case someone out there was wondering if they should try that. Nope, different sound.
Party's just begun.
You this kind of texture back there, I'm just going to add this in. Just like, it sounds almost like there's like a train stopping on the tracks, like that kind of brake sound. Like, it's not that, but it's what it reminds me of. You can hear that string. Maybe that's what it was actually, just a string. But I still feel there's some texture back there. We got those dog barks again. So let's bring in the dog barks over here. Pretty sure. Yep. They're there, but they're quiet. So.
The party's just begun. The party's just begun.
So we've got the kind of call right here. Party's just begun. Cool.
Party's just begun.
Now, something that's interesting about this is even if you just drop a party's just begun, that creates an open loop in the listener's mind because they know that has to pay off. They got to give me that last line. Is everybody having fun? And just that open loop itself carries someone's attention for a while because they just want it to resolve. They're not gonna turn away. It's a cliffhanger, right? Like if you end a show on a cliffhanger, you're gonna be interested in what's gonna happen next time it plays. So you just want it to resolve, and so your attention here is gonna stay fixed. So cliffhanger is probably not the best because you're not paying attention to the show during the rest of the week. But in this case, you're paying attention to the song, but you're waiting for that vocal to resolve.
Just begun.
There we go. So here we go. Party's just begun right there. And then we're going to get the response right here. Is everybody having fun?
Party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
And then we're getting that weird shouty thing again. Like that. We're getting some lasers up. So where are those lasers? Up. So we'll go up.
Everybody having fun. The party's just begun. Everybody having fun. The party's just begun.
Okay, so tops. Oh, do we get no tops? I don't think.
Party's just begun.
We have the sub. We've got the pad.
Party's just begun.
We got the call vocal.
Party's just begun.
Got the string.
The party's just begun.
We got this cool little, I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to call it a little melodic entry. Wow, 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 wow. Just kind of like a filter opening up on a little bit of a sound, a little bit of an LFO on a filter, but it's just cool sound.
Party's just begun.
Wow, 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 wow. We'll call it, and maybe we'll call it like no, instead of melodic, we'll call it wow entry. It's like a wow, 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 wow. A little bit of delay on there, probably. Delayed. Color that something else.
Party's just begun.
Okay, and then we're hit with the stretch vocal. So let's get this guy over here, starting in bar late, as always.
Party's just begun. Party's just begun.
This is also some kind of cool fluttery effects. Like we're going to do accent here.
Party's just begun.
So we're going to call these fluttery.
Party's just begun.
Now, you might think that I'm kind of joking or being cheeky or whatever when I'm putting things like fluttery or synth swirl or where's another example of this? The shouty thing, right? But that's literally how I think about it. Like I'm literally doing this exercise and just recording it. So I'm as much as I'm doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. And but the reason why I want to draw attention to this is because, like, if I was going to make this track, like, that's the word to me that I'm going to be looking for. You see what I mean? Like, I'm going to go look for some fluttery thing. And if I go out on Splice and I find something that to me sounds fluttery, I'm going to drag it in, right? That would be a starting point. Doesn't mean I need to have some flutter sound in there. Not at all. But that's a starting point for me. It's just, hey, it's kind of like this weird fluttery thing. Let me go find some weird fluttery thing. You see what I mean? Like that's really as simple as it would be. And even this weird shouty thing, like my starting point would be like, let's go find some shouting vocals or something, whatever it is. It might not even be that, but I don't care. Like it gives me that starting point to just kind of look for it. And so, yeah, just now back to the regular program.
Party's just begun.
Cool.
Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun.
So now we got these cool like stabs here. See that? That's a cool little stab. That sounds like it's playing a B. It might be playing a chord, but it sounds like it's playing a B. I want to know if it's going to play a different note over here. Let's see. Boom. Let's map that out.
Party's just begun.
And I'm just mapping it out on my keyboard over here, by the way. It's just I'm playing it on a piano that I have next to me, just in case the microphone doesn't pick that up.
Party's just begun.
So it starts on a B.
Party's just begun. Party's just begun. It's just begun.
Bum, bum. So that goes bum, bum, B, D, bum, 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 A.
It's just begun.
Ba-na-na. Ba-na-na.
It's just begun.
So the hitting a what? Is there another note over here?
Party's just begun.
Ah, there is. I missed one. So there's one over here as well. So if I move that here, nah, that's all right. There we go.
Party's just begun.
There it is.
Party's just begun.
And so these notes stay. So for example, let's bring these over here.
Is everybody having fun?
Okay, and then nothing. Okay, cool. So if you're okay, so this is an F sharp minor. So that B just is playing a fourth in there, which doesn't matter. It's cool because it just builds a little bit of a tension. It feels a little bit of tension right there because you have this B and an F sharp minor, which is F sharp, A, and then C sharp. So it just adds a little bit of little fourth tension. Okay, here we got some risers. So let's bring this in like that. Cool.
Is everybody having fun?
Okay, more lasers. More lasers. I think one of the takeaways I'm going to have is lots of lasers. Down lasers.
Is everybody having fun?
And then we got the payoff here. Right like that.
Party's just begun.
Are we getting that vocal right here though too? Nah, so it's just right here.
Everybody having fun?
Okay, cool.
Party's just begun. Party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
Okay, cool. So now, like just every other section, you can divide this into A section and B section. All right. And so the main break and build, the A section, MBBA, this just equals kind of like, it's your proper break. And it's just going to be like chords, openness. Oh no, sound like a guru or something. Openness. And then MBBB section is going to be build, right? Another way is thinking this is like, a lot of times I'll talk about how the main break and build, you want to have a down energy. And this is true. Watch this. So if we start here, and then I play 1-on-1, is that a step down? Listen. Absolutely. So from here, step down to here, and then from here, we step down to here. So 1, 2, 3 steps down. We have reached the bottom right here. All right. One of the things about a main break and build is that you're going from lowest to highest. This is the highest moment of the track in terms of energy and excitement because it's the ultimate payoff here. And then so one way to make this as exciting as possible is not just all these build things, but to come up into these build things from the lowest possible thing. It's like that Drake song, right? Started from the bottom, Now we hear. There you go. All right. And so lowest to highest. And so what we do, though, is staging it, right? You're staging it. So this is the peak, kind of, it's not peak. You're actually kind of starting from back here, right? Because this is almost a step down. Even though we have that drum lift with the ride there, the hook presentation isn't as exciting or manic, right, relatively. But we're starting to just kind of step all the way down. And then this is where we reach the bottom. This is where we bottom out. I'll call this second 8 bars a lot of times the basement, all right, or the proper break. And then, boom, when you get to the second 16-bar section, the B section of the main break and build, it's going to be where you start the up energy. But the thing is, you need to make a definitive move, either stepping up or you can continue to step down, right? So, one way or the other, you are making a move right here. You're stepping up or you're stepping down. And they're stepping up because they start to bring the drums back in.
Is everybody having fun?
All right, so let's get these pads over. Let's get the sub over. Let's get the drums over. Okay, we got the string probably. I'm just going to bring it over. But guess what? Now we're getting the vocal rep verse up again. So we're going to do verse LP up again. And then that's going to continue. All right, call back to over here, right? Same thing. So the pads are no longer. So these kind of like high pass out over time. So that little sound, we'll call this like a bass build entry, is kind of kick-starting the bass again. It could be the bass sound itself, but like with a more open kind of cutoff. But you can kind of think of that bass as signaling the handoff back from the sub to the original bass. But we're definitely high passing up here too, high pass out. So this is kind of reigniting the bass kind of pattern. So we got tops. We've got snare roll, right? Rep, roll, rise, grow. Rep, roll, rise, grow. We got the vocal low passing up some more. We've got that weird kind of riser. Wah, 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 wah. That was, I think, probably playing over here. Yeah, here. Kind of reminds me of the start of Appetite by Chris Lorenzo, where he just has this kind of riser that just keeps restarting. Ah, here we go. Wow, that's just cool. Because this is like way back here when I was telling you like rep, roll, rise, grow. Let me just listen. Ah, it is a rep. Holy shit. So before, and if you caught me, then, you know, good for you. But before I was saying like, I thought the verse was just playing full here, but it's actually doing a proper rep. So I was talking about how the vocal itself is kind of repetitive, and so it kind of naturally builds tension. But this is a proper repetition because it's going where's it, who, why is it, what the hell, where's it, that's like a tongue twister. I can't do it. So there is a proper vocal rep here without question, and so that's coming in over here too. So let's actually write that down. All right, so this is like a proper rep. There you go. All right, so same with this guy. Let's go over here, just like that. Okay, so let's see. We got the beats. We got the bass here. Snare roll's coming up, so LP up. We got the kind of crazy, it almost sounds like cats, like dying cats or something. You hear the delay on the vocal getting crazy to create that chaos. Same thing. And then everything cuts off right there. We're going to get the pipo. And, of course, it's going to be the same pickup thing that happened before. But again, no, there's not really any kind of peak out. There's nothing that takes you to the top. Kind of, though. Kind of. Yeah, they're kind of, you can hear the reverse vocal. There's a reverse vocal that kind of takes you to the top. Yeah, you can hear the so a little bit more of that kind of peak out there, so that's cool.
So we don't care about the wins, the where's, the who's, the why's, the what's, the if, the boss, the kiss, the touch, the last, the lost, the drugs, the you, the me, the us, the stuff, the smooth.
Okay, that's cool. And then that little bass entry thing is now coming in. So let's get the hook drop here, and I'm going to copy down to here. Let's move this over. Woo, getting late. All right, and then let's see. So that's going to now play over here. So let's bring that in, and let's see what's happening, right? So, just to point this out, again, like with John's Summits tracks, like, just very principled, like I keep saying, but look at, like, it's just the same hook structure. Like, I'm almost pleading with the producers, and you watching is like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, probably the most important thing I could ever tell you about arrangement is that over here in the first drop, you gave them something that they wanted. You hooked them. You hooked them, right? That's what a hook is. You hooked them. You put the hooks over the groove. So you gave them something cool, all right? And then you're taking it away. It's not there anymore. They want it back. If you gave them something else, they're going to be pissed. Like, now there's certainly tracks that will do different things, but 80 to 90% of the time, I'll hedge a little bit down to 80 to 90% of the time, if you most of the top tracks are just going to like represent the same hook structure because you hit them with something cool here, they got attached to it. It's like, I want it, right? It's like a 2-year-old. You give them a toy over here, you take away that toy, and they start crying, and give it back to them. Give them the toy back. That's what they want. That's why they're crying, right? This is why you're building tension. You're building tension to tell the listener, hey, we're going back to this cool thing that you wanted, but guess what? We're going to elevate it. We're going to elevate it. And so that's what we can ask. That's the question. It's not how do I reinvent the wheel. It's how do I take what I've already done, present it to them again, and if I want to, I can elevate it and make it even more exciting. Now, guess what? Just the fact that you have this massive section you're going from lowest to highest, that in and of itself is going to make this feel different. Even if this, the drops, hook drop 1 and hook drop 2, were exactly the same. If they were exactly the same, they would still feel different. So from a producer's point of view, it's like, oh my God, I can't have the first drop and the second drop be the same. I'm sorry to my fellow producers out there, but good Lord. But seriously, from a producer's point of view, it's like, I can't have these drops the same. I need to be creative. I need to do something crazy. No, because from a producer's point of view, these are the same. From the listener's point of view, from an experience point of view, they are totally different. They feel totally different because of what came before them. All right. 2 reasons, actually. One is the first time someone hears this here, or even if it's in the set for the night, the first time they hear this is a different experience, right? The DJ's mixing out of a different track. We're coming into here for the first time. It's like, cool. Okay. And then we get all this craziness here. And so by the time we get over here, this sounds and feels different because number one, we've already heard it and now we want to hear it again. And number two, because it's preceded by something else. It's preceded by some crazy chaos, that finally gets paid off here. All right. So enough about that, but that's what I want to show you. Look at this. Like hook drop 1, hook drop 2. Now, yes, we're getting some elevations here. We're getting a ride in here. So he's bringing the ride in earlier. They're bringing the ride in early. I keep on talking about John Summit too. Gorgon City for sure is obviously all throughout this, but this really feels like a John Summit arrangement to me. Just very, very principled and structured. It's like, if you play chess, someone who plays positionally, just solid, All right. So we're getting the ride. Okay, so let's talk about the basics. We got the beat, we got the bass, we've got the verse. But what are the additional things? Well, we got this new kind of bass thing that was started here in the build, and then we also have a ride. And yes, by the way, if you're wondering, that is just a different sound. It's just a layer. It's a high pass, so it doesn't get in the way of the bass, but it's a different sound. It's not the same sound. So you don't have to get crazy with automation. Just bring in a different sound, and just high pass it out so it's not getting in the way of everything. Now, one thing I was talking about before is stereo separation. This is not stereo separation. This is almost like trying to create peak excitement by things almost clashing in a way. But that synth, that new one, that kind of bass, is down the middle. And it is wide open in the mid-range. And the vocals also down the middle, So, like, these are definitely stepping on each other. Now, the cool thing about that is it's kind of like periodic, right? They're not constantly stepping on each other. But it is a thing of multiple priorities, right? And I call that the problem of multiple priorities. I'm sorry. That's not right. The problem of multiple primaries. So what's the primary hook? Usually the vocal. But in this case, I would argue when that synth plays, that's the primary thing. That's the new thing. And to me, that's what I lean into or pay attention to when this plays. And so a lot of times when producers are making music, they have these competing primary hooks. And multiple primaries by itself is a contradiction. That's why I like to call it that. Because you can't have multiple priorities. You can't have multiple primaries. Something has to be the primary. Something has to be the priority. And so when I'm listening to this, though, the bass takes over my attention. And so the vocal in this case is secondary to the bass as it's playing. But they're not constantly fighting for that attention. The synth comes in, it goes away, the vocal takes over. The synth comes in, goes away, vocal takes over. All right. So where's the who's, the why's, the what's, the if, the bus, the kiss, the touch, the laugh, the last, the drugs, the you, the me, the us, the stuff, the smooth, the rough, the new to us, the thing, the fuck, the what, the fuck, I'm run, the run, I've had too much, I'm done, you lost, you won, fun, the party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's... All right, we got some more lasers. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just... What just happened? Everybody having fun. The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun? The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Okay, cool. So now we're in the second 8 bars. Let's see, is it going to be the same hook structure? You already know because I already played it. But again, of course it is. Like that could be almost my tagline for this whole channel. Like, of course it is, because like the same underlying patterns just keep coming up again and again, but you just got to do it in your own way. So we got a little bit of a down laser here. I should probably copy the effects over from earlier, so I'm not recreating them, but that's okay. So party just begun. Do we get the wub? Yep. Do we get the dog bark? Party just begun. Yep. But are we getting this bass synth? Cool. And then here, are we getting the weird swirly synth? Everybody having fun. Yep. Everyone's having fun over here. The party's just begun. The party's just begun. The party's just begun. Okay, we're getting the bam, 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 bam. Party's just begun. The wub. Dog bark. Bass is opening, really opening. Again, same thing as before.
It's just begun.
Ooh, double. Is that a double kick? Am I crazy?
It's just begun.
Maybe not, but I don't know.
Everybody having fun. The party's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
Okay, cool. So really settling to the outro because we're not getting hooks anymore. All right. And so if we play this now, so let's change this to HD2. Cool. All right. And then here, switching into the B section, you can see it's not as big of an edit because, I mean, this is so interesting because we're not really handing off to a new hook. So this edit right here is smaller than the one that happened over here. Like this was a big edit.
It's just begun. Is everybody having fun?
This one, though, not so much.
Everybody having fun.
Cool. So let's do HD2. And then we'll do HD2B, see what it's defined by, but it's like probably lack of hooks. But let's see what we got, all right? Do we have the vocal? So not even getting the, is everyone having fun?
Everybody having fun.
But we're getting the weird shouty thing there. The weird shouty delays. Are we getting these sounds? Let's see if we're at least getting the sound design stuff. No. Wow. Interesting. So really settling down. We got that big... So this is kind of like an accent right here and a down, like a down effects. So you can just hear the psh, kind of like. So we definitely don't have the stretch vocal, so that's gone. But we do have the little swirly synth. Okay. Interesting, little laser right here, but we don't have the this little melodic fill. Yeah, see, there's a good example of the little shouty thing that I was telling you about. Like, what the hell is that? Okay, so no main vocal there. Okay, so no melodic fill. No vocal hooks at all. Do we have the dog barking? Let's see if the dog's barking. Nope. Okay, the ride goes away. So again, we are settling down to the outro. We are staging it. We are stepping down, settling the energy. Small little edit again, not a need for a big edit. Okay, so this though is bass closing all the way kind of down over time. So again, just settling. Okay, and then your typical outro. So let's just get the outro done. So we'll create a new thing here. This will just be outro. Okay, cool. So let's move the beats over. Let's get the bass over here. Probably cuts out right there. Let's see. Oh no, still going. Sub is still there. Okay, they're just going the whole time. So still got the little wubs. Crash. Let's get the crash over here. What about right here?
So where's the who's the why's the what's the it's the boss the kiss the party's just begun.
Crash right here.
Party's just begun.
We also kind of got this like.
Party's just begun.
Got the swirly thing still going. Okay, still going. Okay, this is ridiculous, but sure. Let's put the pad in at the end. Okay, very quiet. This is funny. Okay. All right. So, takeaways from this track. Number 1, lasers. Holy shit, so many lasers in this track. Just what I mean by lasers, just like basically taking like a saw wave or a sine wave, and just like pitching it down or freaking like putting an LFO on it, like some kind of saw wave LFO. But just lots of lasers. Okay, number 2 though, more importantly, is just how principled this is. Again, like La Danza is still my favorite in terms of arrangement. But this is really close. Like this is a great arrangement too. Like about as straightforward as it gets in terms of what I call the HT2 formula. HT2 formula is intro, bass drop, break 1, hook drop 1, main break and build, hook drop 2, and outro. And this is exactly right. 16, 16, 16, 32, 32, 32, 32. And then, now you don't have to have those bar lengths, but if you want to just have something that's perfect in terms of structure, there you go. All right, we just went through it. Also, chunking down from the high-level structure there is just the presentation of the hooks. So of the drops too. You got clean A section, clean B section, clean A section, clean B section. The cool thing to me that I like is 2 things. One is the presentation of the hooks and the variation in the second 8 bars. And then the second thing is the size of the edits. The size of the edits is a very nerdy thing, so I'll save that one for a second. But I really like that that like the A section here has the main vocal. But if you repeated that would just be too much. It'd be too much. So then they take a title line of the vocal and they call response it. And then they just kind of put things in between that call response and then kind of create some evolution and some movement through the kind of bandpass synth, and then also the bass opening up. So it's very simple. It's like it's just nail a hook pattern, create some kind of nice, cool evolution. It just makes it feel a little bit more sophisticated in this case. And then very strategic stepping down here. Like, yeah, there's a ride on top, but like just kind of slowly bringing it down, but switching from the A section to the B section to get that stretch vocal, because that's what defines the B section in this case, in this B section right here. But even check this out. This is interesting. Kind of getting off course, but like this melodic fill right here, bow, bow, that only plays here. That only plays here. It doesn't play over here, right? Because here you're trying to settle things down, and this is a way to create a little bit more excitement. Okay. And yeah, so the B section, you got that stretch vocal, and then you just got these extra little sound design things that are just kind of playing. And the thing about like sound design and vocals, most of the time the primary hook's going to be a vocal, and then the secondary hook of the track will be like sound design or the little sound design things that you have, like in this case. And but the thing about it is that they're going to be interacting. you know? And so like here we have party just begun, well, and then the wub triggers the delay. And so they're all going to just be interacting, having a little chat, having a little hangout together. Love the main break and build with the chords. That's really cool. And, but very, very kind of like, it's cool because it's like musical, but still the principle is there. Like the chords create a sense of atmosphere, a really cool vibe in the context of tech house, almost like a very Gorgon City thing to do for sure. And then, I really like that. And then just getting into your build though. Like, so we're stepping down just as you would, principle. Unique execution to create the atmosphere and the vibe would be, and the sense of openness would be these chords, just going from E minor to F sharp minor. And then just stepping into the build, making the definitive step up with the tops. And I'm just kind of re-walking through the track because it's just execution of principles, just across the board, just uniquely done. But one unique thing to point out is here in the hook drop 2, we're getting the standard thing where you're going to get that verse over the groove again, switch off to the pass the baton to that second 8 bars of hooks. But the elevations here in hook drop 2 are going to be the ride and that bass thing that was introduced in the break. But the cool thing, the unique thing, is here in hook drop 2, we're not going back into the B section of hook drop 1. We're starting to settle the energy a lot into the outro. And so DJs are going to be starting to mix up the next song through here, so they're trying to not keep it crazy. And so that's kind of unique. That's kind of cool. I like that. And yeah, I mean, really, just principles. Just learn the principles and do them in your own way. That's probably the highest level thing that I can gain from this track. Now, of course, you can download this MIDI map if you want to use it and come up with your own way of doing it, because you can think of all of these as just little sandboxes that you can play with, because that's all they're doing, right? This is just structure that we're looking at. Like if we just remove the song, if I deleted the song, and we're just looking at this is just things to play with. And you could totally do that. Just do it in your own way. Find your own kind of stretch vocal. Find your own kind of verse vocal. Find your own kind of little sound design things, because that's what they're doing, right? That's what they did, right? And so you can certainly do it too. So if you got comments, leave them down below. Insights that you want to offer the world and to all of us, leave them down below. If you got any questions, leave them down below. And like I said, you could download this. And I'll see you in the next breakdown. Peace.